everybody, this is Sushreeya. Today, we'll be talking about a rather interesting topic, the histories and the influence of political parties in the United States of America. The United States of America has seen many different political parties, and many of them are not very popular today, as well as many independent candidates that have stood in the different elections, such as the Senate, House of Representatives, state, local, and even national elections. There are so many parties that we don't see today. For example, the Free Soil Party was from the time of slavery. These were groups of people that weren't exactly abolitionists. However, these people supported the idea of colonization, an idea from the early 1800s where they sent free African American slaves back to Africa. This idea didn't stand long, especially against abolitionists, who later went on to help fund for the 13th Amendment to free slavery. Today, we'll be talking about the various political parties, but we'll start from the very beginning. Federalists and Anti-Federalists. This started in 1778, when the talk about creating the Constitution was going on. The first set of rules, known as the Articles of Confederation, weren't really supporting the government and doing what it needed to do. Moreover, it gave the citizens to do much more power and destruction than that was given in the hands of government officials. Hence, for public welfare, this all had to be changed. During the ratification of the Constitution, there were many compromises that needed to be made on issues such as representation of different states, their populations, and most importantly, slavery. A lot of leaders from the time back then didn't exactly agree with the idea of slavery. However, to prevent from the newfound country to crumble, they decided to just go with the flow, making a compromise that stated slaves, each one slave, was equal to the amount of 3/5 of a person. Obviously today we can all agree that this was not a fair rule, but this was only what they could do back then. The two political parties, Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Washington supporters and Alexander Hamilton supporters were mainly the people who considered themselves to be Federalists, while people who supported Aaron Burr or Thomas Jefferson were called the Anti-Federalists. Everyone at the time wanted to ratify the Constitution. They needed to show the whole world that they were capable of not just being able to keep their country together, but to also show that people came together and supported each other's ideas. However, this was off to a very rocky start, because there were two different parties who were slandering each other indirectly with their different newspapers. This is where we first see political parties occur. Obviously, George Washington from back then had envisioned an America together. They didn't want political parties at the time, but this is what fate had asked of the newfound country. The Anti-Federalists later went on to call themselves the Democratic Republicans. And we see the first major actual clash of political parties slandering each other during the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase was a deal for America where a huge set of land, especially in the Midwest, was sold from France to the United States of America for just $15 million. Now, considering how much land was given back then, this was a great deal. It was about a cent for an acre of land. Now, France obviously was not thinking at the time, because Napoleon, who was the dictator of France at the time, did not want any other conflicts with America or the British. He was busy trying to think about how to penetrate the Soviet Union. The Federalists and the Anti-Federalists had two key stars that were very, very opposition of each other. Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. Two people similarly in many ways. However, their differences were what made them the fiercest of opponents. Both of them grew up as orphans, both incredibly smart people. But after they separated their ways, and they both grew up in very different households. Hamilton grew up in a much rather modest household, while Aaron Burr went to live with his rich relatives. Both of them were key generals and captains in the American Revolutionary War. And even though they both passed New York at the same time, they never initially met, until they later met in politics. The most famous duel of American history occurred because of the slandering of each other. Alexander Hamilton took it very, very personally to ensure that Aaron Burr would not surpass him in any manner, because his opinions differed from his. When Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson went head-to-head, Alexander Hamilton wasn't that fond of the opposition party. However, his heart would not see it that Aaron Burr would be the next president. And so when it ended with a tie, he convinced someone from the House of Representatives to vote for Thomas Jefferson. As a result, Aaron Burr had lost the presidential election. He had quietly slandered Alexander Hamilton for the time being. However, there was a point in time where Hamilton could take it no more. And there was a duel. Silently, that took place at night. The party before where they met, no one even knew that they had an argument before. And it was a duel with pistols. Hamilton missed the first shot, but Aaron Burr did not. 20 minutes later, Alexander Hamilton had died from the gunshot. This is the first time that we see the effect of slandering in political parties. Today, people wear the values of the political party that they support as the crest in their heart. And political parties these days have become much more than what they represent. They are more about the individual, and we can see this from history before. But political parties have not always just been the key thing. Political